Hey everyone, how important is diversification if you're an investor? Whether you think about the Bible or ancient wisdom text or like the most modern quantitative finance white papers or research, it makes sense to diversify your portfolio. This is probably a super basic video, right? Because you probably already know about diversification, but I want to reiterate this and set a foundation for thinking about diversification on my new YouTube channel, this channel, the Psychedelic Sector. So thanks for being here. If you're here and you're interested in investing, both in investing generally, and if you're specifically interested in this new wild amazing sector that's forming called the psychedelic sector with companies like Mind, Meditai, Side, and Field Trip, and you want to learn more about them, and you want to kind of have an idea of what I believe personally is a 100x or 1000x opportunity, then please like this video, but more importantly, subscribe to this channel so you can keep up to date with the tons of videos I'm going to be producing. Now, this is not financial advice, of course. This is my opinion only, and it's entertainment or infotainment, but I'm going to be talking a lot about these things. But I want to set a foundation talking about a prudent approach to risk management, and that is through diversification. So I'll just talk about what I do and how I diversify. I'm big, big on the psychedelic sector. Being an investor and having invested in things like Tesla in the past and succeeded quite well, even though I made a lot of timing and other errors with Tesla, I still succeeded because the overall trajectory was solid. Um, so I did well with some plays, and now I'm kind of reevaluating my situation here. I'm thinking, is Tesla still the thing that's going to go to 100x, right? Because I'm still looking for 100x opportunities with a portion of my portfolio. No longer am I looking for those opportunities with my entire portfolio. Of course not. No longer am I looking for them with my entire portfolio. I have to now be far more diverse with my portfolio, which is the topic of this video. I have to diversify quite a bit, but there is still a portion of my portfolio which is allocated towards big plays, that is not at all about diversification, not at all about hedging and taking measured bets, but is all about taking 100x, 1000x bets. And so my investing history and track record, and my education, which education, yeah, undergraduate and graduate degrees in finance and econ. I don't know how relevant that is in today's wild world, but basically, um, that background combined with my experience with psychedelics, my understanding of them as just as true medicine, as the best medicine, the medicine that everyone needs in North America, barring the small percentage of people who shouldn't take them at all, where it's too risky for them to take them at all. But most people, I believe, would benefit from these things. And then I think a safe and a conservative and a prudent approach to taking them is to, have them be FDA approved as medicines. FDA is the most stringent approval authority the globe has ever known. So very, very strict approval requirements for the FDA. And maybe the European Union is more strict in some cases, but the FDA is quite strict. It's kind of the gold standard. So once FDA approves it, I think it'll start being approved around the world. And the US, North America, everyone's just going to be better off with these therapies. That's my sincere belief. Uh, so I have an incentive to invest just from a moral, spiritual, kind of humanistic perspective, but I'm also investing because I know what it is. I know that these things will replace SSRIs. These things will replace the suite of backwards medicine we have today, uh, where, like, when we look at, like, how did George Washington die, the first president of the United States? He died through bloodletting, the ancient and maybe quasi-barbaric practice of bloodletting, the now seemingly uneducated, the kind of primitive practice of bloodletting, where they thought that letting your blood out was the way to heal you. And of course, most people died from that therapy. And in the same way, maybe SSRIs, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, and other medicines that we use today to treat mental health problems, some of which are arising because of modern civilization, some of which have always been here. Not going to go into that tangent on this episode, but maybe in the future I will. But this enormous amount of mental health stuff that's going on, these mental health problems that are happening, we're treating them with primitive approaches and therapies. In 100 years, we'll look back on these therapies just like today we look back on bloodletting. Just like when we think about George Washington dying from bloodletting, that's crazy. That makes us think like, what the fuck? Are you kidding? In the same way, we'll think, wow, the way you thought treating depression was through giving a pill like that, every day taking a pill that's gonna inhibit the reuptake in the brain of serotonin. It's gonna say, no, we're not taking the serotonin back. Let it still stay out there and float. That's the way we do it. Or is it through different means, different approaches, different therapies? A core part of those new therapies may be psychedelics, maybe, if they're approved. And so that was a crazy tangent here on why I'm so bullish on the sector, right? But I think it's important for you to understand how bullish I am so you can appreciate the message of diversification that I'm bringing here. When I talk about diversification, it's from a battle tested investor, a battle tested man who has invested not too in too concentrated of a way in the past 2 decades, and I've seen other people, including my own father, invest in too concentrated of a way where they got burned. They got burned big time, and they and I myself experienced capital loss, severe capital loss, um, unpleasant. But those things teach you. And although you have an entire school of thought that correctly that diversification is for losers. Diversification is for people who don't understand what they're investing in. Even Warren Buffett talks down about diversification, saying, "Oh, extremely broad diversification is for people who don't know what they're doing." That could not be more true. And at the same time, it's good to not put all your eggs in one basket. Those two things could coexist at the same time, right? You can't just say, oh, I want to be in one thing. You have to be comfortable with dualities and uncertainty and gray areas if you want to be a good investor, if you don't want to fuck up, if you don't want to experience capital loss. So I'm concentrated in my long-term portfolio in psychedelics, yet I understand from all the wisdom that I've gained and read that, yeah, you can't put all your eggs in one basket, and a ton of it depends on your personal situation. So in my own situation, where I have a certain lifestyle that I need to maintain and certain expenses coming up, I can't just go all in on psychedelics. But a 20-year-old that only has $1,000 to his name or her name, maybe they can go all in on one sector. Maybe they can go all in on one stock. Because anyways, it's a tiny portion. Assuming they have a job or they have parents that will take care of them. Assuming that's an insignificant amount, that $1,000, right? Assuming that it's an insignificant amount. Now, more deeply, when you look at the math of diversification, I'm not talking about diversifying across like 500 stocks. I'm only talking about diversifying like 10 or 20 positions, having 10 or 20 positions. Mathematically, in equities alone, if you're just in equities, about 30 stocks is going to be the ultimate diversification. Between, like, if you go to 30 and then you go to 300 stocks, that extra 270 stocks is not giving you that much diversification, but it's giving you less concentration. So if 30 and 300 is very similar, you might as well spend the time to pick the best 30. In that sense, Buffett and a lot of the people that are saying don't go too broad on the diversification are right, because if 330 is the same in terms of the diversification benefits, then why would I pick 300? Why would I do 300? Yeah, I can't even keep track of 300 stocks. I should spend the time and pick the best 30 in a good appropriate diversified portfolio. But if you're just in stocks, dude, you're not diversified. Don't let Warren Buffett fool you. Don't let these people who made all their money in stocks fool you. They have an incentive to talk like that, but you're not like them. You have your own life. Are you comfortable putting all your money in stocks? You, as a human being, just a monkey that has to survive in North America or wherever you are you comfortable putting every single dollar in stocks, or do you think more, some money should be elsewhere? Also, I don't know. Personally, I would not put all my money in stocks for many reasons that I'll talk about in the future. But I think that you need to diversify across sectors. Bonds, maybe. I mean, bonds have been a terrible investment in my opinion over the last 30 years, but bonds potentially. Just some cash. What about precious metals? What about crypto? What about real estate? What about businesses and diversified income streams? You have diversified completely. Real estate should be a big portion of your portfolio. You need some cash on hand, and that cash on hand, the amount of cash on hand, depends upon your current situation. So if you're about to retire, you need more cash. If you're about to put a huge down payment, you're going to need more cash. If you're about to pay for your kid's wedding, you're going to need more cash. But if you're like making a ton of money and you're 45, 50 years old, you're just doing very well making a ton of money, and kind of you've already set aside money for your kids' college, or your kid's already out, you're 55, 60, your kids are already out living on their own, doing okay, and you're just, you have enough for retirement, maybe you could go aggressive. Maybe if you're in your early 20s and you're living on your own, and you don't have any obligations, or even if you're in your early 20s living in your parents' house, you can go super aggressive. But it all depends. And again, this is not financial advice, this is entertainment or infotainment. So take everything with a grain of salt, and know that you shouldn't be taking advice from people who don't know you and who you don't know online, right? Because in addition to the fact that we have no obligation to you whatsoever, we also don't know you. We don't know your idiosyncrasies, and we don't know we don't know your particularities. And general advice is good, but specific advice is definitely superior to general advice. um, so in most cases, so yeah, diversification is important. You can't no matter what you believe in, whether you're a Tesla boy, whether you're into the psychedelic space, whether you're into crypto, you can't go all in on one thing. You can't be too all in. If you are, then I'm simply going to ask you, what's your reasoning? Tell me why. And 99.99% of the time, your reasoning is going to be bullshit. It's going to be crap, unfounded crap. That's just almost like a religion, almost just an assumptive, just feeling that you get and you're going with, instead of an analytical approach, or kind of framework, or even better, a process, an analytical process. You go through within an overall framework, within an overall investing framework, saying, I won't go into any one sector more than this percent, saying I'll have a certain amount of real estate, I'll have a certain amount of stocks, I won't go into any one type of investment more than X amount of percent. Maybe I won't do more than 50% in stocks. I won't do more than X percent in real estate. I won't do more than X percent in crypto. Things like that, right? Some people go even deeper. They break it down into subcategories and subsectors, which you could do as your net worth grows. But yeah, diversification is key. Hopefully this was useful. If it was, give this video a like, and more importantly, subscribe, right? Subscribe to this, because I have a lot more content coming up. Now, I'm incredibly focused on improving just every aspect of this channel, everything. And I'm going to try to invest a ton of energy and money into buying good equipment so I could make better content, just more fun, engaging content. So please engage with me. Tell me what you'd like to know about. Tell me what you're interested in hearing. Anything about investing, anything about psychedelics, anything about psychedelics in terms of investing in them, or anything about psychedelics in terms of not investing. I'm open to it, and I have the answers for you. I definitely have the answers for you, and where I don't, I'll research it and I'll be able to put it into proper context using my background and experience, and then I'll put it into great context for you. Always trying to do it in a fun and engaging way. So please subscribe. Thanks.